Yeah, okay. So what I'm gonna do is you can actually, this is what I would do. I would just do the miles per gallon and just copy that. And this is, yeah. And if you copy it, you can go over to Excel. We'll do a new, we want that. Blank document. And all I'm gonna do is we'll paste special. Let's paste this and see what happens. So it doesn't like that. So we'll try it again. Undo paste. Let's do. So we'll do that Unicode text, and that should work. So that just unformats everything. Okay, so then we have the miles per gallon. It's all in order. And then the next thing we want to do, here I have the. Okay. There we go. So plot miles per gallon and gallons to go 100 miles. We have, so what I do is, so we have gallons. So we want so what's important to know is that on Excel, you need to have the x-axis. So when you plot a graph, it needs to be x-axis needs to go first, y-axis needs to go second. So in this particular graph that we want to do, we want miles per gallon, MPG, on the x-axis, and we want gallons to go 100 miles on the y-axis. So that's what it tells us to do. So I need to make sure in my columns, when I select them, that the x-axis is on the left and the y-axis on the right. So we already have the miles per gallon. So I'm just going to take this, copy it, and paste it right there. And then gallons to go 100 miles. All we're going to do is we're going to make an equation. So this is where you can do it by hand, or you can just have Excel do it. By hitting equal sign, it tells Excel you want it to do a calculation for you. So gallons to go 100 miles, well, we have 100, and we're going to divide that by the amount of miles per gallon. And so we have 100. And instead of hitting 9, I'm just going to say equals, and I'm just going to tell it to divide by the cell where 9 is. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to drag this down. So if you see that little square here, if you just see how it changes to like a dark crosshair, once you do that, you just click and drag, and it'll do the same equation so it basically just saves you all the time to do it by hand. Now, you can do it by hand, but that just saves you that work, okay? So this shows us that the Lamborghini needs 11 miles or 11 gallons to go 100 miles, where the Prius only needs 2. That makes sense. That kind of tells me I did it right, that you would need more for the Lamborghini than the Prius, okay? Any questions up to there? Again, half the students will like do the equation, half the students will just like, when we did it in person, would like do the equation. I think it's just useful to know how an equation works, okay? So when we plot this, I tend not to select the axes. I just select the data, and you're going to go up to Insert, and then you can choose all the different ones. You want to go to Scatter, and then you're going to go to the one that doesn't have any lines on it. Okay, so this is where we might have had some confusion. We click that, and we see that this is not a line. Okay. But we don't really know what we're graphing. I can kind of see the numbers. So what I want to do is I want to make this chart make more sense. And so you can come over to Chart Elements. Now, this is on a Mac. It's different for all computers. If you have a PC, sometimes right-clicking on the graph axes will allow you to add these elements as well, or they have different kind of menus. But for a Mac, I just come here, and I want to put a primary horizontal axis. And all it does is it inserts a text bar or text box. And so I can come in here and say, well, what's on the x-axis? It's miles per gallon. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, insert chart element axis title for the vertical, and that'll allow me to type in, it is gallons to go 100 miles. Okay. And
Wait,
then
sorry, can you go through how you got, because I got the same numbers and I did like the drop down, but I got a completely different looking chart. Like mine goes up this way as opposed to down
okay.
that way.
So so we have, if we look at this, so the number 1 on page 5 says plot miles per gallon. That's the x-axis.
Yeah.
So miles per gallon, that's 9, versus gallons to go 100 miles. So did you get the numbers for these two to match up?
Yeah, I had
Okay.
I copy and pasted the 100 column too. So maybe that's why. Like the miles
Oh
or the,
yeah, so see how I have 100 here? So you could have selected that column and divided the two out. You don't technically need
yeah, that's
to.
what I did.
Yeah. So sometimes if you see like on the horizontal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes when you select text box, your graph doesn't know what to do with it, and it treats those as a variable and then just makes them 1 and 2. So that's why I never select the text. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. So do you have the same values, like 12 to
Yeah.
0 and 0 to 50? You have those?
Yeah. Wait. On the bottom of the graph, it goes 0 to 25.
Okay.
But it looks like completely different.
All right. Let's see. So, so here, what I'm doing is I'm just checking. This shows me what I'm plotting. So if you click on your dots, are you getting the same selecting the two columns? Do you see your columns being clicked? So if you just click on your data, it should show you what it's graphing.
So it does, if I click on the blue dot column, it does the car type and the miles per gallon, not
Yeah,
the.
So that's the issue there, that you're graphing values, and you're just graphing. It's going 1 through 22, which is just like I said. That's the text. So it's
Yeah.
just doing it like ordinal data. So that's why that's the easiest way to find out that you just graph the wrong columns.
How
So
would I graph the right column from?
So let's just do it again. So what I'll do is I'm going to select the two I want to graph, making sure that my x-axis is on the left and the y-axis is on the right. I'm only selecting values, so I've selected all of these. And once you've just kind of highlighted the two columns, you'll go up to Insert, and then I go over to the graph types, and then I'm going to select the scatter plot, and then that should pop up.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah, there are fancier ways to do it, but that's the easiest.
Okay, I like easy.
All I was doing was putting in the chart titles, which you'll need to do as well, and then you can just put miles per gallon versus gallons to go 100 miles, and that's fine. X versus Y. So so any other questions right now? Just kind of getting to this point on the graph. That's the hardest part, honestly. And I actually, in previous iterations of this, we actually transformed it. So what you can see, I'll just show this to you. We would all agree this is not a linear plot, right? This is not a linear relationship. It's curved. It's not a line. It's not increasing or decreasing linearly. It's doing it in an exponential way. And so we can actually look at, so if we were trying to match it up with a line, you can see, well, it's linear down, but see how this doesn't at all fit the curve? What I can do, I need to move this over so your pictures aren't in the way. I can go through and say, is it exponential? It's not great. Is it logarithmic? Better. Is it polynomial? That's a squared relationship. Not quite. Power, that looks really good. And the power is actually to the -1. And that's the relationship showing us that we are basically dividing all these by the same number, which is, so if we look at this relationship, we're taking 100 divided by this number. And so we are dividing by the x-axis, which gives us a 1 over x relationship, which kind of makes sense. But that doesn't really explain kind of answering our question. So the second part of the kind of, I gave you some values, is to show you that you can look at the numbers and you can see that, well, the Prius to go 100 miles takes a lot less gas. We can see that. We could save money versus a Lamborghini. But the whole point of the lab is to not look at individual cars, but look at differences. What car should you change, and what should you change it to? And the perception and basis of the lab is that buying a Prius will save you money. That is the best investment if you're just trying to save money in gas. Like, forget the environment, forget like all the other things that the Prius represents. If you're just trying to save money on gas, that buying a Prius will save you so much money. You can make up for all the money you're losing on an SUV or a truck. That's kind of the premise of the lab. And so what hopefully we'll kind of go through the data and show you that actually the Prius doesn't save you nearly as much money as you think it would. Or to say another way, you lose way more money on a fuel inefficient car than you save on a fuel efficient car. And I think that's a big misconception that a lot of us have. And so that's kind of an idea of the lab. But before I kind of get ahead of myself, on any of the technical bits of this plot, do we have other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I can't find the tab where you can like select to start finding the best fit line. Could you just?
Oh,
go
you
over
don't
it
have
one more
to.
time?
So what you do on any program is if you just there's two ways. One is you just go to a blue dot and you right click it. And if you right click it on a Mac, format trend line is one of the things. Now this is not part of the lab. I was just pointing this out, that the relationship is nonlinear. It used to be something I made you do in the lab, but I don't want this to, for a remote lab or virtual lab, I didn't want to add that. I felt like it would just make everyone frustrated. So I removed it. But I'm just showing you that if you were to format this trend line, it's a 1 over x squared or 1 over x relationship. But that makes sense because if you look at what we did, we took this value is 1 over x. It's 100 over x, right? So this is 100 divided by x. This is 100 divided by x. And so we should see that this y-axis is related by x by an inverse relationship because we divided each value, the same value, 100, by the x-axis. So that's why it's a perfect 1 over x relationship. So that's not terribly surprising. But if it were a linear relationship, we should find that changing between cars should have the same savings. That is to say that, so if we look here, so see how we go from 9 to 19. If you go from a Lamborghini to a Mitsubishi Eclipse, that is a difference of 9 miles per gallon, right? Okay. So if you look at that, or if you go from 28 to 48, that's actually double the miles per gallon, but we can find that we actually save way more money going by 10 miles per gallon, going from 9 to 19, than from going from 28 to 48. And that is a nonlinear relationship. That's kind of what we're getting at. If it were a linear relationship, then we would find that it didn't matter where on the scale you were, changing the gas mileage by the same amount, like 10 miles per gallon, would have the same savings. But a nonlinear relationship doesn't.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, so then are we not supposed to answer number 4 where it says like add trend line, click through trend line options?
Oh, yeah, I guess you do. Sorry, I forgot. I removed the next part where you actually had to transform all your data to then make it linear and then plot that. So yes, you still need to do that. So yes, yes, you do. Yeah. So this is the easy part. Well, easier than what it was before. Because then you had to make a new equation and make it anyway. So okay, the other way you could do that on most programs, if you have your graph selected, you can go up to Insert. Let's see, on this one, it actually, I think, is easier to have it as a, let's see, if it comes out as a graph. So when you plot this, a lot of times you can, on a Mac, I only do it this one way. I'm trying to see, chart format. Let's see, format. You should be able to, I forget, I haven't done it on a PC in a bit, but you should be able to chart type, charts, move chart, chart type, select chart. You should be able to do it here as well. It might be actually a chart element and as a trend line. Yeah. So you can also in a Mac go to the chart design, just like you did axes, and you could do trend line. Okay. So you should have kind of similar pathways, either clicking the actual data on the plot or going to the kind of chart elements or insert trend line. So if you can't do that, then you can share your screen with me. I'll unshare mine, and then we can go through on your computer. I'm also happy to do that if anyone's there or needs that.
And the equation to display the equation or whatever, that's also on the
Yep. Oh yeah, so we'll do that. So I'm gonna come back here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back to format trend line because I've already inserted it. And then there's these little checks down here. So I'm just gonna check the bottom two. This is showing me the equation, and then the R² value. You remember how in the correlation and causation, actually the one plot I did give you didn't actually have a relationship, but if you go checked all the other plots, they all had the function and then an R² value. Now this R² value is 1, which means it's a perfect match to a 1/x² relationship. See how it's actually 100 over x² because we took 100 and we divided it by x values. So because we did that, it is a perfect correlation, meaning that it matches exactly because that's the mathematical operation we did. So 1 is the highest R² you can get, but we generally say like you need to have 95% or 0.95 R² for it to be considered a good match. So that's what that's just basically showing your correlation of your actual data to this mathematical model, which is 100 divided by x. But since we divided 100 by x, it's perfect. If that makes sense.
Okay, I'm not sure if that same thing equation is showing up on my graph when
What are
I
you
go
getting?
back to format. Like, it just does the trend line and it doesn't show the like equation that's in the top or whatnot.
Now, and you have the display
I
equation on
checked
chart.
both. Yeah.
Is it hiding somewhere? Sometimes it inserts it in a spot where you can't see it.
It's not behind it or anything. Oh, actually, never mind. I see it right now.
Yeah, it's sometimes it just it gets overlaid with other stuff like text, like if you have sometimes a legend shows up. There's other things that your default will do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, can you go over one more time how to get, I got the graph. Can you explain how to get the y-axis and x-axis labeled? Because I'm clicking insert, but it won't, it doesn't show
So
that.
do you have a Mac or do you have a PC?
Mac.
Okay, so your Excel kind of looks like mine?
Yeah.
Okay, so click on the graph first, and this is going to then open up a bunch of stuff on your, so if we go to here, if we go to insert, it's going to give us a lot of little pictures. Now we already have a chart here, so I'm gonna go to chart design. So once you click on a chart, then these two green things open up as options. Okay, so we click on the chart, we go to chart design. So if I click off the chart design goes away. Click on the chart, and then the chart design pops up. And now we can go over here, add chart element. There's a couple ways to do it. I think this is the easiest way. And this is where you can add your trend line, your legend, grid lines, error bars, all your chart elements.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, so you can do all your axes. You can do more stuff too. On a PC, it actually, you can say add all. And with one click, it actually shows you, and it just adds text box. That's all you're doing.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions with the technical bits of a graph in Excel?
This isn't a technical question, but I just wanted to so I read over number 6 where it says like knowing this, which regulatory policy would be best. And I think that it's tax penalties for low mile per gallon cars, but I wasn't sure if I fully understood. So I just wanted to check.
Yeah, so what's your reasoning behind that before I answer?
Well, I was just thinking if people are saying that, I don't know. Well, I thought that if people are saying that you'll benefit economically more from switching out your lower mileage cars for like better mileage, then maybe you want to like tax lower cars so that people will do that. Because if you give a tax break for hybrid cars, then people will just switch. They could just be switching out like better cars. I don't know. But then I wasn't sure like if we were supposed to be thinking like economically or environmentally.
No. Yeah, no, that's it. So yeah, you're right. So you're basically, the whole point of the lab is showing you that, getting rid of a low mile per gallon car is way better than upgrading. Once you have a Corolla, you don't really save a ton more money. But if you have a low mile per gallon car, the amount of money you save by going up just a little bit is huge, because of this nonlinear relationship. So if you have a car that is like under 15 miles per gallon, getting rid of it and getting a car that's above 20 miles per gallon will do way more for saving you money, or not using as much gas as buying a car from 20 miles per gallon and up to 40. So that's what a nonlinear relationship means. So by encouraging people to get rid of their low miles per gallon car should have a bigger impact on the amount of gas consumed and then CO2 emitted than encouraging people to go from a Corolla to a Prius.
Okay. So it could kind of be similar to like my answer for number 5 almost, where it says like, does this explain why getting rid of a Corolla instead of an SUV is
yeah. I just want to link it back to like climate change and policy, and how incentives are good, but that one incentive might be more for this particular it's important to have that alternative energy incentive, but sometimes we need to de-incentivize technologies that are really bad, right? So it's I think so it in terms of we talk about like you should incentivize, there's always this like, should you say always be positive, incentivize a positive thing, or should you like penalize the negative? And in this case, penalize the negative actually might have a bigger impact.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you want us to, put the Excel on? Like, do you want us to take pictures of our graph and put them on, or?
I mean, so there's 2 ways you can do it. You can technically take a screenshot of your whole Excel file and then just put it in as a picture into your Word doc, and that's fine. Or you can just simply upload your Excel file and your Word doc file for your lab as 2 separate files. You can upload more than one file into Canvas in the assignment, so either one's fine. But like I'm just looking to see if you've actually made an Excel, kind of spreadsheet and graph. So either one work. If you do a screenshot, just make sure I can read it. It's not like small or fuzzy.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna ask on the lab for number 3 when it's talking about how many gallons of gas will this help Cody put into the SUV? Would you just how much money, like the answer from A, and would you divide that by 4?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, because the parents are basically saying all the money we save you get, and so you can see that the money they save does not make up for the gas he'll use.
Right.
Is the idea.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.